story. So I grew up in a mill town, called Millicent in the southeast of South Australia. It was a town where we chopped down trees to make toilet paper. And if you know your Northern Ontario, I drove through Northern Ontario a couple of years ago, and I went through a place called Dryden.
Yeah.
And that smelled exactly like Millicent. Same process, whatever it is, it's the smell. So, but my father was a dentist, and he saw the light, and he got us out of there as soon as opportunity started to dry up for his children. And we moved 7 hours north to Adelaide. We left our grandparents behind. My grandmother died not long after that. I would have been only 7 years old. So we would start to visit our grandfather on regular intervals, and we'd happen on a Friday. Mum and Dad would turn up in the station wagon, and we'd all jump in with the rugs and pillows and no seatbelts, and we'd jump into this car, 5 of us, and Mum and Dad, and we'd head on into the setting sun down to Millicent, and we'd get to this town for about 8:30 at night, and we'd pull up to our grandparents' home, and I'd jump out of the car and I'd run in. My grandfather would be there on his couch, and I'd jump on his lap, and we'd start smoking. Yeah.
That was expected.
Parental supervision just didn't exist back then, right? I mean, he wasn't feeding me cigarettes, but I was sitting on his lap, and he was like rolling his cigarettes and puffing his pipe and stuff. And he had a great big couch, and on the corner of the couch was this device, which was like a chrome dome with a little trapdoor in it. And he would put his cigarettes and his ashes into it. And then he'd press this baker-like button, and it would spin. And then his ashes would be gone. Like they'd go into another dimension, or so that was worth the whole experience of just sitting on his lap, just watching this ash disappear. Smoke another one, Pa. And so then we'd sit down and we'd have pea and ham soup. It was always pea and ham soup, and my mum would spoon the soup into my grandfather's mouth. And he would laugh, and he would splutter, and the soup would go all over the place, and he always cried when he laughed. So I remember him with his tears, because I think it's a MacDonald trait, when we laugh, our eyes tear up. So that was my recollection of seeing him, and not long after that he passed as well. And many years later, I was reminiscing with my mother about that time when we used to go and visit Pa, and she said, "Well, Dave, things weren't exactly as they appear." And so I steeled myself for the words, like, "He wasn't your grandfather, and I'm not your mother." But it wasn't that at all. It was the fact that on the Fridays my mum would phone up Francie, my auntie, and Francie lived 30 kilometres away from Pa. And she would go around to the grandparents' home, and she would spruce up the place, and she'd put the pea and ham soup on, and she'd get the windows and get everything all sorted out and all freshened up for us to arrive. And then she would go to the old folks' home, and she would pick up my grandfather, and she would install him into his favourite couch, right? Because he was a proud man, and he didn't want his grandchildren to see him in a home. So that was his request. So this is a song for him, and his walking stick, because Jean, his wife, died, and he used to visit her, and so this is about him and his walking stick, and that time. This is called Old Joe's Cane. My grandfather's name was Frank. I wrote this song pre-Facebook. I was trying to save his identity. But anyway, here we go. Old Joe's Cane, walking stick, made out of bone and copper and wood. So. side alone. That is knuckle, brass and bone. And with each step without a fall, he recalled the memories caught between the cracks that vein and fall, beneath the rhythm of his walk. Be my companion dear, steady my step, I'll hold you near, and with leather on stone, weather it alone with my knuckle, brass and bone. Half a mile out of town, half a smile, half a frown, shadow steeple rakes the ground, leave a flower on her crown. Were my companion near, you steadied my steps and I held you near, but with leather on stone, I now weather you alone with my knuckle, brass and bone. Let's go.